When we were looking at some of the comments on videos, somebody, I think it was Christopher, asked what it was like if for Serena travelling here as a mum with 2 young children. And so I thought it might be interesting if we did a little interview, if you like, and just ask her what it was like, what were all the preparations like, and any of the obstacles and things that she might advise. So, well, when did you start booking to come here?
I initially last booked to come April 2020, which my flights then got cancelled, obviously because of COVID, and then they were well, I changed them, and I kept trying to change them, but every time I changed them they'd ask me for more money. Just basically saying the flights are more expensive for these dates, so I'd have to pay a bit more, and it was just such a faff, so I ended up just losing out on money. I've
just read actually, somebody wrote a comment to say they'd had exactly the same situation, and it was now over £500 that they'd actually forked out for these tickets, and that they were going to have to either move them again or just lose the £500, and she wasn't sure whether it was worth losing the £500 because each time it was costing a little bit more and a little bit more, and there comes a point where you have to cut your losses.
Well, we had then the problem that Luna wasn't an infant anymore because she'd turned 2, and we'd then have to pay for a name change to change it to Savannah, so we ended up cutting our losses and we lost that money. But then this time I left it until 2 weeks before I actually came to just book the flights and say, right, we've got 2 weeks, what's really going to change in those 2 weeks? And then I just booked the flights for the 3 of us, done, and we're here. We made it eventually. But yeah, booking the flights was all fine. We came with EasyJet, and we checked in a case, so basically I put everything that I needed in that case and literally just brought essentials onto the plane. So I had a backpack which I was carrying on my back, which made it much easier when I had the 2 girls. So I had the pushchair with me all the way through the airport up until I was boarding the plane, at which point I would then put Savannah in the baby carrier so that I had my 2 hands free for showing my boarding pass and my phone and the passenger locator form and whatever I needed to show when boarding the plane.
Just to point out that the 2 children are 2 years old and
3 months when we came, nearly 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, just making sure that I had 2 hands free was really good. So putting her in the carrier, she actually fell asleep and I had her facing me. So I had her facing me on the carrier, 2 hands for Luna, managed to get on the plane, had to show boarding pass. I don't think I showed my passenger locator form there. I think it was the other end, getting off here, that I showed my passenger locator form.
So which airport did you come from?
Bristol.
And was it easy in Bristol?
Yeah, so Bristol Airport, I didn't park, my husband dropped me off, so Leon dropped me off, got through the airport, security was brilliant, so I actually got security at 2 hours, just over 2 hours before the flight, and they couldn't have been more helpful. They all came over and said, can we help you, can we do anything? One of them actually held Savannah because I had to take my boots off while I was sorting all the bags out to go onto the trolley. Luna was brilliant, she was tired, it was really early in the morning, so it was fine. And then they helped me through security, and through the other side the man said to me, anything we can do, just find someone in the airport and they'll help you. The only obstacle I got to was when I was going to get onto the plane, the gate that they'd sent us to was actually down some steps, and so I was looking around for a lift because I had the pushchair still at this point, and there was no lift to go down. And so I picked up the phone, the help phone that there was at the top of the stairs, and said to the lady, look, I've got a pushchair and I've got 2 babies with me and I need to get down these steps to board the plane. She said, sorry, we're boarding the plane, you have to find your own way down. And so at this point I'm in a flap, I don't know what to do, and so I had a bit of a meltdown. Luckily one of the people that were actually boarding the plane said, can we help you? And so one of them helped Luna down the stairs while I tried to take the pushchair down, and as we were doing this, one of the security guards just walked past us going to go down the stairs, and the woman said to him, excuse me, she needs help down the stairs. And so yeah, I did actually get help down the stairs eventually. Yeah,
that's not so good though, is it? It's something they should provide. There should be a lift really, or some assistance to get down. And what about actually getting on the aeroplane?
So I gave the pushchair in when they were checking the boarding passes, and then put Savannah into the carrier, and then got onto the plane with the 2 girls, and that was fine. We'd had to walk outside a little bit. I thought Luna was going to have a bit of a meltdown, but she didn't. She was fine getting on the plane.
So she had to climb up the steps on her own?
Yeah.
And what time was the flight?
7 o'clock in the morning.
Right, so was she wide awake by then?
She was, yeah. She was
good.
fine. And then we got onto the plane and I had to put the child's seatbelt on. So I put my seatbelt on and then the one round Savannah. But the problem with that was she was facing me in the carrier and I thought, great, she's asleep, I'll leave her in the carrier. So I managed to get the seatbelt round us both. But the air hostess said because she's facing me, if I had to get in the brace position, I wouldn't be able to because she'd bend the wrong way. So I had to get her out of the carrier and turn her around to then put the seatbelt on her. So if you are putting a baby in a carrier, face them outwards if you can, if they're old enough, obviously, so that if they're asleep, you don't have to wake them up.
Yeah. And were they okay during the flight?
Absolutely fine. So Savannah had a bit of a feed and slept most of the flight, and Luna, I stuck her tablet on and stuck her headphones on her, and she watched Encanto the whole way down, and that was brilliant. It just kept her entertained. I made sure I had lots of snacks for her because obviously food helps everyone. And going up, I thought she might have a problem with her ears, but she didn't.
No.
But she sucks her thumb, so I don't know whether that helped pop her ears.
Sucking does help with ears. Okay, so yeah, the flight was fine. What about when you got to Palma?
So when I got to Palma, obviously I still had the carrier but didn't have the pushchair, and you don't get the pushchair back until you get to the belt where they're putting the suitcases out.
And it's a long walk in Palma. It is a long walk.
Luckily Luna walked it without complaining, but she could have easily just not walked it, and then I don't know what I would have done, because obviously I had Savannah in the carrier and I can't carry another one. But it's a long walk. It was a good, I'd say, half an hour walk really, with at Luna's pace.
Yeah.
Before you get to passport control, which we didn't have a queue for, probably because we were walking so slowly and we were at the back. Everyone had gone through before us, but also because it was so early, I don't think there were many other flights at that time.
Yeah.
And then we had to go down the escalators, and at the bottom they were all stood there in these full white suits, masks on, a bit scary, daunting.
This is the health check.
Where they were all lovely. They were really, really nice, all making a fuss out of the babies, and they just checked the passenger locator form. So I had them all on my phone ready to go. So I had mine, Luna's and Savannah's, so I could just swipe through them, so that they could scan them.
Did they ask for COVID passport, your COVID certificate?
Yeah, so they asked for my COVID certificate and the 3 passenger locator forms, which obviously the girls don't have. I had to have a passenger locator form for the girls, but they don't have a COVID passport. And then once you got through there, it was another little short walk to the conveyor belt where we got our suitcase and the pushchair before getting out.
And that's where we came into the scene.
But I didn't realise that we'd gone through customs. I did actually see on the floor it said nothing to declare, but that's the only thing that...
So that was a question that when we were actually waiting in the airport, I was curious about customs, and we've actually done it ourselves because we went over to England last October, and I'd seen these lines on the floor, so I should really have known. So there is customs, but it's sort of not really enforced here. It's sort of a voluntary thing. You can go through something to declare or go through the nothing to declare, but there doesn't seem to be anyone, at least when I went through, and I don't think when you went through, no one was actually being stopped.
No.
And no one was having their suitcases searched. That doesn't mean it's not going to change in the future. Maybe it will. So
but yeah, for the airport I would just say carry as little as possible with children, because if you've got one bag with everything in it, so nappies, wipes and whatever else you need for them, it just makes it a lot easier. And a change of clothes for the girls, and maybe for yourself as well, just in case, because you never know what's going to happen when you've got milk going everywhere or you've got food going everywhere. Just another t-shirt or whatever. The only thing getting over here that I would want to point out is that there's not very many places to change a baby. So you go into a restaurant and it can be the nicest restaurant ever and they won't have anywhere to change a baby. So luckily we've got the pushchair that we bring everywhere, and I just lie that flat and I change the girls in there. It's a bit more difficult with Luna because she is 2.5, and so she's a bit bigger and doesn't really fit in the pushchair anymore. But yeah, restaurants aren't very kitted out for baby changing over here.
So Serena, Luna and Savannah got another week and a bit to go.
Yeah.
And then they'll be travelling back to Bristol. So maybe we can get a little bit of a report on what the trip back's like
Yeah.
after you've done that one. But it won't be long before they're back again. The plans are to come out for Easter, and all of the rules keep on changing. The masks, it looks, are going to go soon. We still have to wear masks on the street, but it looks as though they're going to disappear very, very soon, as will a lot of the other regulations when you're here. But you just have to keep up to date with what's on in the news and always obey the rules.
Oh, and tests. Didn't have to do any tests to come out here. Haven't got to do any tests to go back. Initially, I did have to do a day 2 test to go back, but that's changing on I think it was the 11th of February they said. So I'm lucky I'm going back on the 13th, so I haven't had to book any tests or do anything like that. I'll just have to do a passenger locator form.
So that's looking a lot better for us, because each time we've been back we've had to do PCR tests, I think, both times, and then they changed it to lateral flow tests. But it looks as though whenever we go back in the future we won't need to do those tests. So Serena will be back with the girls and with Leon in April,
2 months
Easter time. So it won't be long and we'll all be back together. Thanks very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button.
Bye.
Bye.